Let's pivot real quickly. We've heard over the months about Tez Walker not being able to play at the University of North Carolina because of several reasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's confused because if you look at if you go through the sequence of things, it just doesn't make sense. Like the NC2A was picking on the Tar Heels, so to speak. Then a lot of people got involved, but this guy who's calling in right now is a friend of the show.
Yes.
And he represents our state, particularly on the legal side. He's the North Carolina North Carolina Attorney General Josh Stein calling in. Good morning, Josh. How you
doing? Good morning.
Man, I'm so happy you coming on this morning because there's still people still kind of like, what is going on? And I really want you, Josh, to give us a synopsis of how we got here. I know that Ted's lawyers were involved. I know Governor Coop was involved. UNCAD, General Counsel, UNC trustees got involved.
Man, everybody's involved.
And of course, your letter a week ago,
yes,
on September 26th. Was impactful. Let's talk about how all this came together, if you will, Josh.
Well, basically, I'm like anybody else. I love college sports, college football. And when he was getting ready to suit up in Charlotte to play South Carolina, he's from Charlotte. He went to West Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And his grandmother was there. He had 30 folks in the stands. None of his family had ever seen him play before because he only ever played at one team, and that was in Ohio.
Right.
He started out at North Carolina Central, but they never had a football season because of COVID.
Right.
So he'd only essentially transferred from one school. And when he transferred to Carolina to be back home, it was for a couple of reasons. One is he's very close with his grandmother who's not well.
Right.
And he had some mental health issues that he wanted to be closer to home, and he felt comfortable on Carolina's campus. And so he had very valid reasons to be home. And in fact, those are reasons that exceptions are granted to the general rule that you can't transfer from two schools, or if you transfer from two schools, you have to sit out a year.
Okay.
And so I assumed after they made that decision that in the intervening time, the NCAA would correct its error.
Yeah.
And one last little fact that really speaks to the unfairness of it all was he transferred to Carolina before they made this new rule that you couldn't do it twice. And if you did do it twice, you'd have to sit out. So there's an idea in the law about retroactivity, that when you put in a new rule, you don't apply it retroactively to somebody who made the decision before they knew the rule even existed.
Right.
Right.
So when 2 weeks later they shut him down again, I was like, what is going on here? Because the NCAA is this big, nameless, faceless bureaucracy.
Yep.
And so I called the general counsel over at Chapel Hill, a lawyer named Charles Marshall, and because I represent the university. I'm the lawyer for the state and all the state agencies.
Yeah.
So my lawyers.
Yeah,
That's
we
right.
get that.
We represent the university, and I said, when someone's being treated unfairly, is there anything we can do? And he said, well, Tez has his own lawyers, so why don't you talk to them? UNC hired their own lawyers, and we talked to them. And the more we looked into the law on this, the more I became convinced the whole rule is of questionable legality. We have this concept of that you can't restrain trade.
Right.
You can't keep people from doing what it is they want to do in this world unless there's a good reason, a pro-competitive reason. And when we asked ourselves, what good reason is there for this rule, basically the only thing we could come up with is that the rule might be appropriate for people who transfer multiple times,
right,
to make sure that when they go to a new campus, they acclimate and they get used to the school academically, socially. You want them to succeed as students in addition to being athletes. But honestly, that was never a factor with Tez Walker because he had a 3.7 GPA at Kent State.
Wow.
He had a great grades at Chapel Hill. Both Kent State and North Carolina Central, they said we don't have a problem with him playing. So everything about it was just upside down and perplexing. And that's why I wrote the letter to the NCAA demanding that they reconsider their unfair and potentially illegal decision.
We're going to get into that a little bit too.
Yes, we're talking to Attorney General Josh Stein. We're talking about Tez Walker. You in your letter, you talked about that one of the things was a serious antitrust concerns. Can you kind of break that down?
In layman's terms so we can understand.
Basically, the NCAA is an association of competitors, and literally competitors, because these schools compete against each other on the playing field. And you can't, as competitors, pass rules that make it harder for participants, the student athletes, to do what they do, which in Tez's case is play football. And I'll give you another world example to make it a little clearer.
Okay.
A lot of fast food restaurants, when they would have their workers join them and sign an employment contract, they had something called a no-poach agreement in there, meaning that you, as an employee, couldn't go from one McDonald's to another McDonald's or one Burger King, any fast food restaurant. You couldn't go from one fast food restaurant to another one, either within the same company or a competitor, that you were saying, I won't do that if I come to work with you. Well, that's illegal because that only serves to depress the wages of already low-income people. And it's a restraint on trade, and what the worker trades is his or her skills. And so I've been working with a lot of attorneys general in the country to systematically engage these fast food companies and have them strike those provisions in their contracts because they are illegal. They are anti-competitive. And this is the exact same idea. What the NCAA is saying is we're going to pass a rule to make it harder for you to move from A to B. And if you're going to do that, you have to have a compelling pro-competitive reason, something that's positive, not just something that's going to make somebody more money, the company more money. It has to be positive to the participant. And I told you what I think a possible good reason is if the kid is moving around because they're not succeeding academically, and you don't want the kid to fail, but you have to have an ability to apply that general concept to the facts at hand. And as I said, in Tez's case, it just held no water because he's doing well academically, and he's clearly thriving at Chapel Hill socially. He loves being there. He loves being home. This is his home state. It's much more familiar than when he was in Ohio. And so that was our argument. The NCAA, by the way, did not agree with us. They wrote me a letter back saying, no, you're wrong. But that happened. I didn't expect them to say, yes, we agree that we violated the law.
Exactly.
So that's not really a surprise. And in terms of like what actually made the difference and what made the NCAA
that's my question. Yes.
Yeah. I don't know that we'll ever know because they are a black box. They don't really tell people what happened or what was their thinking process, who actually made the decision, who made the decision the first time, who rejected it the second time, who finally overturned it the third time. I don't know that we'll ever know that. But what I do know is that Tez was represented by some excellent lawyers, and they did a really good job representing him, making the case again to the NCAA about how they unfairly applied their rule to Tez's case. UNC was all in trying to help. The trustees were very engaged, as you all mentioned at the beginning. And, my letter, I have no idea if my letter made a difference or not. But
you wrote it, though.
We made it very, we made it very clear to the NCAA that if this thing ended up in court, we were going to be aggressively on Tez's side, questioning the legitimacy of the whole house of cards.
We talking. Wow, Tez Walker, this is unbelievable. If you don't know what's going on, you've been under the rock. We so happy to have the Attorney General Josh Stein on. That's interesting, because you kind of answered part of my question. Is that so? The NC2A comes out and said, based on late new information, breaking new information, they're gonna make a decision. And it seems like I don't really. Personally, I don't really believe that, but based on late breaking information that Carolina provided them, and then they made a decision to make him eligible. Your thoughts on that? Bubba Cunningham, by the way, athletic director Bubba Cunningham said that's not true. Your thoughts on that?
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, I because I'm not UNC, I didn't submit his first application. I didn't review his most recent new submission. I mean, basically what the folks on Tez's side have said is that there really wasn't anything meaningfully different in the subsequent submissions from the first one. But, maybe there was something in it that checked the box that the NCAA needed to see that, again, nobody knows exactly what that is. And, why they make people go through all these hoops to prove something, I don't know. But I do know that Tez and his lawyers were very strong, and we in my office were very strong in communicating to them the unfairness of what was happening and, potential consequences if it wasn't reconsidered. And so I'm just – why the NCAA made this decision, I don't know that we'll ever know, but here's what I do know.
Okay.
Tez Walker's going to play football, and that is a great thing for that young man.
Yes, it is.
He's just a kid. Reese, I've got college kids.
Yeah.
And they're growing. They're not fully there yet. They're pre-adults. They're on their way to becoming adults.
That's
and
right.
They're trying to figure out their place in the world. And I just tried to imagine if my kid and their personal issue, like wanting to play football and transferring and all these issues that Tez has, if it was out for the whole world to know, like how hard that would be on one of my kids emotionally.
Yeah, see, I'm with you on that one.
Thinking about this kid, and his whole life is out there. We're talking about him, and all he is a kid who plays football wants to go to college and get a degree, and he's on track to get
and doing well, too, in college, which is great, though. That's what I'm talking about.
Exactly. Yeah. So it just – my heart went out to him, and I could not be happier for Tez Walker.
Mm-hmm.
That's great, and we're excited on this end because we talked about it a lot. I just had one question as I was reading your letter on yesterday, and one of your concerns was about rule of reason for him, that exception. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, all your listeners are getting a lesson in antitrust law this morning.
Yes.
Good.
So rule of reason is the standard that the court applies to a restraint of trade. Like if you're going to hold people back, you have to have a good reason for it. And this is what we were talking about earlier about, helping him acclimate socially and academically being the only legitimate reason I think that the courts would even accept in this new legal era. And I don't think that works in Tez's case. So it failed the rule of reason is what my team and I believe.
Well, awesome job for you and your team.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier, again, we're talking to Attorney General Josh Stein. You mentioned that you don't know what happened, but if I get a letter saying that this may go to court and we're going to be involved in it, NC2A probably say, let's go ahead and get off this.
Couple words, antitrust, illegal. Just a couple words that make me like, wait a minute.
Buzzwords, right?
Yes.
Well, my last point, I'm going to let you get off it again. We appreciate your time.
Sure.
Is this going to open up the floodgates for other schools to be calling you or have you getting involved? Or because, I mean, I'm curious, this is not an isolated case in terms of you guys' involvement because, like you said, you get involved with restaurants and other things of that nature. If another school call you or another player, I'm assuming you guys will jump in with both feet just like you did in this case.
Yeah, I mean, obviously everything is completely fact dependent. We'd have to know, what the situation is, what the rule is, and how was it applied in the person's case. And this one was just so bad. I mean, it was just so transparently bad. And, all it took for us was to write a letter. So it wasn't like we did move the entire state government on this thing.
Right.
But we would absolutely look at any other North Carolina institution, state university in the system if they asked us to. because that's what we do. We're the lawyers. And
well, since we got you on here, Pam got a question for you. We're going to let you go.
I need to know if you can help me out. I have been, I think it's an antitrust law that Facebook has taken away my privileges. And I haven't done anything wrong. And I need help so I can promote the show and all the other things that I do. But there's several people that just want to be me. So there's several other people using my name and likeness and stuff, and I think that's why they took me down. But I might need some help. I do need some help from the Attorney General.
We do help people. We do help. That's what we're here for. We have a whole team called Consumer Protection Division that when people are dealing with companies, the way you're dealing with Facebook, let's say you get a bill from some company that you never incurred, and they keep sending it to you, and they won't listen to you, or you get sold something and they told you one thing, but the reality was totally different at the end of the day.
Right.
We help people, and it's very easy for people who have issues like yours to file a complaint. We have a toll-free number, 877-5-NO-SCAM, and we have an online complaint form, which is super easy. It's NCDOJ, that stands for North Carolina Department of Justice, ncdoj.gov/complaint. And so we help people out to the tunes of millions of dollars, tens of thousands of people to millions of dollars every year. And so if folks are having frustration with whoever they're doing business with, just let us know.
I will.
Well, first, Tez Walker, not Pam Thompson-Smith.
Pam Thompson-Smith, yes.
Hey, Josh, my friend, we appreciate you, man. Good job. We'll talk to you soon down the line. Take care.
Good talking to you both. Bye.
Thank you.
Wow.